This video is a special edition of How Are We Related? High Crimes and Misdemeanors in Our Family Tree, Episode 1. And this episode is about Therman William Terry, who, for my generation, is a third cousin one time removed. Therman, when we look at his information, we look at his death record, we can see that he died in 1971 at the age of 22. He was a Vietnam veteran, served in the Marines. He worked in road construction. And he died of an intracranial hemorrhage with a fracture of his right skull as a result of a fight. And the death was deemed homicide. Now, what is particularly interesting about this third cousin one time removed? What we notice is he was black. So, where does Therman William Terry fit in our family tree? I will show you. We have to go back to the beginning and back to the grandparents. And for this particular line, we look at the family of William Buford Shaw, who was Grandpa. Grandpa's father was William Harrison Shaw. Harrison, by the way, was the middle name for Cuzzy, James Harrison Shaw. And his mother was named Amanda Henderson. She would be my generation's second great-grandmother. And her father was William Thomas Henderson, and her mother was Judith Mary Frances Carmichael, which, by the way, she is a direct descendant from the Scottish Carmichael clan, and we'll talk about that in a future video. But William Thomas Henderson and Judith Carmichael had 8 children. Their first was our great-grandmother, Amanda Henderson, and they would have 7 other children. We're going to go all the way down to their very last child, who was Jeter Henderson. And you can see that Jeter was born in 1870. His mother, Judith, would die in 1877. And so we're going to see that there's lots of census data that lets us know what happened to Jeter. In 1880, after his mother died, he went to go live with our great-grandmother, Amanda. And then in 1900, he was living with one of his brothers. In 1910, we see that Jeter has moved into a physician's household that has 7 servants. Jeter was the only white servant, and there were 6 black servants. After that, in 1920, Jeter was able to rent a farmhouse on his own as he was a farmer. In 1930, he was a boarder in a house that had a total of 5 people with no occupation noted. In 1940, he was living with one of his nephews, and again, no occupation was noted. He would die in 1955, and it would note on his death certificate that he was never married. But it doesn't mean he didn't have children. Based on DNA evidence, he had a child with Martha Guy, who was black. Not much is known about Martha, but it is known that they had a child together, and she would die shortly after the child was born. Charlie William Guy was born in 1900, and he would go to live with a family in the Pennsylvania area who would teach him farming, and he would become a farmer. he would marry a woman named Etta, and he would have 2 children, Mary Ethel Guy and Linwood Guy. Mary Ethel would have 2 children as well, and one of those children was Therman William Terry. So what happened in the homicide? Newspaper articles give us the story. Apparently, the altercation occurred in a store, and the person charged was Harry Bird Davis. He was charged with murder for attacking Terry, and Terry would die as a result of that fight. But 2 months later, a Pennsylvania county judge would decline to certify a grand jury in the case. Apparently, testimony from witnesses generally supported the account of the defendant. What happened in the fight? Apparently, Davis tried to avoid the fight, and he struck Terry on the right jaw with his fist. Therman Terry fell to the pavement, twitched a little, was placed on the porch of the store, and later was moved by friends to a hospital where he was pronounced dead. And so that's the end of that story. But maybe the moral is, never prejudge people. You never know. They might be family. Until next time.